Hey, small businesses, Centera Health Plans has a team dedicated to answering your questions, leaving time for other business thoughts like,
how did an action figure get stuck in the air vents?
Or,
what is the ideal human-to-goat ratio from my yoga class?
Knowing your health plan questions are answered, you can now focus on your other business needs. Centera Health Plans, a dedicated team for your small business. Centera Health Plans is a trade name of Centera Health Plans, Centera Health Insurance Company, Centera Behavioral Health Services Incorporated, and Centera Health Administration Incorporated. Exclusion terms and conditions apply.
Say goodbye to your credit card rewards. Greedy corporate mega stores, led by Walmart and Target, are pushing for a law in Congress to take away your hard-earned cash back and travel points to line their pockets. The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would enact harmful credit card routing mandates that would end credit card rewards as we know it. If you love your credit card rewards, tell your lawmakers, hands off my rewards. Tell them to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill.
Welcome to Wisconsin in Focus. I'm J.D. Davidson. Weeks after protests formed on campuses of the University of Wisconsin system, and after agreement with protesters in Milwaukee drew criticism from the system's leader, the UW president now wants to make sure there's a focus on free speech and civil dialogue throughout the college community. Joining us today is Ben Yount, Wisconsin contributor for the Center Square. Ben, what does the president want to do?
He wants people to listen. That's really what it comes down to.
We want people to listen.
Yes, yeah. We want people to click and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you never miss another episode. I don't know what that's all from YouTube. The guy that I watch on YouTube was making patty melts the other day, and so it just sort of rings in. I heard a story. This is completely not having anything to do with UW, but I read a story the other day that young kids who watch a lot of YouTube, they think that the way you say goodbye is hit that subscribe button and don't forget to, smash the like or whatever the verbiage is. And they're like, okay, no, that's not the way you just say goodbye. You don't have to say, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. But no, Jay Rothman, president at the University of Wisconsin, spoke to regents last week when they had their meeting in Milwaukee. And this is interesting because, as you said in the setup, Milwaukee was one of the campuses that saw pro-Palestinian protesters. Milwaukee was the campus where no one called in the police to move these protests, even though they're against the law. Milwaukee also saw during that regents meeting, because it was held in Milwaukee, a group of protesters stand up and shout at regents. It was during the business meeting, and they wanted a complete divestment of Israel, and they didn't get it, and they interrupted, and they were escorted out. So the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in particular has had a lot of questions about protests and who gets to say what and which group is feeling threatened and which group is accused of doing the threatening. And Jay Rothman framed it interestingly enough. He asked the question, what really is the problem when it comes to campus protests, when it comes to divisive issues? What are we dealing with here? And I'll give you a snippet of his speech because I think he frames it perfectly between the question of speech and the question of listening.
Much is written and discussed about freedom of expression on university campuses across our country, including by legislators seeking to ensure that freedom of speech is protected. An admirable goal, to be sure. But I'd ask this question. Is freedom of expression really something that is being abridged at our universities, or is the challenge broader and more complex than that? I suggest it is the latter. Within the universities of Wisconsin, I believe the rights of our students to express themselves freely is not the primary issue. Rather, I believe the real challenge is ensuring the presence of civil dialogue. By this, I mean the simple act of respectfully sharing ideas or opinions and listening to the views of others.
This is part of a conversation about free speech and who gets to censor speakers, how campuses treat conservative guests versus popular liberal speakers. This is something that's been going on here in the university for years. The line about lawmakers have focused on free speech for years. There have been a number of legislative proposals that would punish campuses if they don't respect the rights of everyone to free speech. And it comes after last year's student survey that we wrote about extensively at Center Square that showed about half of UW students didn't speak their minds because they worried about getting either shunned by other students or getting a bad grade from their professor because the professor doesn't agree with their political stance. And so that's the original backdrop. And yeah, to come out and say, look, it's not a speech problem. We got plenty of speech on campus. The president essentially said what we don't have, he said, is enough listening. And how you solve that? Well, there's the trick, right? If you had that problem, everything would be taken care of.
You know, I think it's an interesting take. There is a tendency, I would say, not just on college campuses, but everywhere, to kind of loudly disagree, and all of a sudden things get heated instead of kind of having that. We've done this before back in the olden days, the good old days, when somebody said something, you listened, you responded to them, and you looked for kind of middle ground and compromise. I'm not sure the approach is the right approach that he's taking, but I do think it's an interesting take. The other part of that is, sure, free speech is free speech, and everybody, that belongs to everybody. The next sentence we fail to mention: there can be consequences for your free speech.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want to, but there can be consequences. Now, you shouldn't get a professor shouldn't give you a bad grade because a professor disagrees with you. But if students don't want to associate with you because of an opinion you've expressed, then that's the consequence of free speech.
We heard this line over and over and over again during the height of the late April, early May campus protests for Palestine. The government cannot tell you what you can and cannot say. Your university should welcome a robust public discussion. But the law firm that you're hoping to intern at over the summer, or your girlfriend, or your buddy's parents, they can absolutely take a look at that and say, you know what? No, thanks. I don't want anything to do with you. You're exactly right. You have the right to free speech. That doesn't mean you get to say and do whatever you want and then be surprised when people react to that. You know, actions have consequences. As I have told all 4 of my children, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And that's where we are. The difficult part on universities is that, you know, by and large, universities are a bubble. They exist sort of separate from either the community that they're in or the rest of the state that they're in. You know, campus communities tend to be different than the town 25 minutes down the road. Anybody who ever lived near a university, you know that, okay, they're a lot more liberal here than just 25 miles down the road. And I've said this for years, that bubbles can be dangerous because here in 2024, you have the ability to read only what you want to read, listen to only the music you want to listen to, watch only the shows you want to watch, talk only to the people who you specifically want to talk to. That doesn't mean just I'm going to talk to my handful of friends. It means that anyone who disagrees with you online, with a click of a button, you can ban them, block them, drop them, erase them. And what happens is in both sides of the political spectrum do this. You get this sense of, well, everybody I know supports this. You must be some babbling moron if you aren't on our side. And then because the internet is anonymous and everybody gets to be a front porch gangster, that's how it goes from, well, I understand what you're saying. I simply disagree with your conclusion. It becomes somehow, well, you're the devil. You need to go away with all of your other devil friends, and you shouldn't have the right to vote. And that's the difficulty. That's the part that the solution that Jay Rothman's proposing is sort of a mandatory class for the incoming class. You're freshmen. You got to take the No Means No seminar. You got to take the Welcome to Campus seminar, and you got to take the Free Speech also means listening seminar. And while that'll be helpful, that's not going to solve the problem that we have of people being selectively closing their bubble here in 2024.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating debate on debate. Ben, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
Hey, small businesses, Centera Health Plans has a team dedicated to answering your questions, leaving time for other business thoughts like,
How did an action figure get stuck in the air vents?
or
What is the ideal human to goat ratio from my yoga class?
knowing your health plan questions are answered, you can now focus on your other business needs. Centera Health Plans, a dedicated team for your small business. Centera Health Plans is a trade name of Centera Health Plans, Centera Health Insurance Company, Centera Behavioral Health Services Incorporated, and Centera Health Administration Incorporated. Exclusion terms and conditions apply.
Say goodbye to your credit card rewards. Greedy corporate mega stores, led by Walmart and Target, are pushing for a law in Congress to take away your hard-earned cash back and travel points to line their pockets. The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would enact harmful credit card routing mandates that would end credit card rewards as we know it. If you love your credit card rewards, tell your lawmakers, hands off my rewards. Tell them to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill.